welcome to another episode of the Captain's Log, the Daily Drive. I'm on my way to the airport and got to catch a flight in about an hour and 20 minutes, so I'm giving myself 45 minutes once I get to the airport to get through security and do what I need to do. But I have access to a system that allows me to go through a different area of security, which is expedited. If any of you are going to the airport, in the Orlando International Airport, I recommend that you give yourself 2 hours to get through security and get to your plane, just to play it safe. 2 hours once you arrive at the airport. Very important. So on this episode, I want to talk a little bit about RRM, which is Risk Resource Management. Risk resource management is something that we in the aviation world do on a regular basis, and we actually all do this on a regular basis at home with our families and our daily work as well. But for those of you that are in the aviation field, you may be able to relate a little bit better than most. So the four fundamentals of risk resource management. Number one, accept no unnecessary risk. Let's talk about that. We do it all the time. On the road, we speed up, we turn, we merge into another lane where there's oncoming vehicles. You simply don't put yourself in a position where there will be risk, unnecessary risk. Now, sometimes you have to merge. Sometimes you have to get in that lane to get around traffic, or you want to. But oftentimes, we do it just because we want to. So, if you're in that situation where you're just doing it because you want to, think twice about it. Pause. Let the cars pass you. Sometimes it's better to just slow up a little bit, let people get ahead of you, and then you make your merge and you eliminate that risk. So accept no unnecessary risk. If you're not feeling well, if you took some medication, if you didn't sleep well the night before, there's no point to showing up at the airport and risking a bad situation. Okay, so that's number one. Accept no unnecessary risk. Accept risk by planning and managing. Okay, it's okay to take risks. You have to take risks. A lot of the times you have to. That life is all about how much risk are you going to take, right? But take your risk by planning and by managing your situation. Okay. For example, I'm giving myself an hour and a half to get to the airport. I could have given myself 2 hours, and it would have been a much easier ride because, I wouldn't rush. I'd be able to withstand, an accident on the road better. All kinds of things like that. And so that's through managing. So I can manage my time better. Okay. I could plan ahead and have my stuff ready so that I can leave a little earlier. So that's one example. Okay. Accept risk when the benefit outweighs the risk. Think about that. Accept the risk when the benefit outweighs the risk. Okay? All right. Crazy example. Your kid falls in some shark-infested waters and you're in the Caribbean on a boat. Well, obviously, if you jump in that water, you're putting yourself at a certain degree of risk, right? Extraordinary amount of risk. But the reward of saving your kid, the risk is worth, the reward is worth that risk. Okay? Jumping in, saving your kid, getting him out, because really I can't imagine anyone being able to, live the rest of their days knowing that they didn't jump in and save their kid, right? So accept risk when the benefit outweighs the risk. So a recap of the 4. Accept no unnecessary risk. Accept risk by planning and managing. Accept risk when the benefit outweighs the risk. And then the final one is number 4 is make decisions at the right level. Don't go off the deep end. If it happens to all of us, we get upset with girlfriends or boyfriends or friends or family, and we go off the deep end. We overdo it. We make a mountain out of a molehill. Okay? We need to be calm and collected, and we need to be able to pause and let our reaction be appropriate to the circumstance. Okay? There are 100 examples that I could give you on that, on an everyday situation, with your boss and your jobs. If your boss says something you don't like, you're not going to fly off the handle and say something inappropriate that causes the situation to escalate. You're going to evaluate what you've heard. You're going to bite your tongue because you need the job. You need the job to feed your family, to live. So you evaluate your reaction. You don't overreact, and you respond at the proper level. Now, what happens if it's a more serious situation where your boss says, and you're female? I'm using the female as an example because it doesn't often happen with a male. If the boss makes an inappropriate advance and makes that inappropriate advance and expects the female to react in a certain way, and if she doesn't, her job is dependent on it. So he disrespects her. But because he's in a position of authority and he's got power over her, he knows that she needs the job. Maybe she's a single mom and she's got kids at home and just can't risk losing that job. That's a horrible position to be in. But she has to make a decision at that point. And all of us would say, you stand up for yourself, girl, and you don't put up with any crap. It's easier said than done. I've not been in the position, so I can't really comment. But there are times where you have to stand up for yourself and don't take it. And let the chips fall where they may. If someone's inappropriate like that, and your boss, you react at the correct level. I mean, you're not gonna assault them, but you can get up, you can walk away, or I don't know. I guess there's always an appropriate level that you can do it. You do things. No matter how bad it is, you could always say, no, that's not gonna happen. And you can get up and walk away. What's he gonna do? So the next day when he fires you, your response was at the right level. Well, he made an advance at me and he expected a sexual favor, for example. And when I did not provide that, he retaliated and I got fired. And there are laws to protect you on that. So as long as you behave appropriately, you'll be on the side of the law. Now, if you overreact and you don't respond at the correct level, and you say, "You SOB," bam, and you slap him across the face. "How dare you? I'm a decent person. How could you? Blah, 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 blah." Well, you did not respond at the right level. In some cases, you would think that that would be the right level, but it's not. It's never okay to strike someone. It's never okay to assault anyone. You've crossed the line when you do that. No matter what the circumstances, unless you're defending yourself physically, that's not acceptable. So as soon as you slap him, even though you are right to be upset and you're right to, feel disrespected, it doesn't matter. You crossed the line and you assaulted him. And his verbal abuse or his verbal approach to you is less in the eyes of the law than your assault on him. So in the end, you're the one that gets in trouble. How ridiculous, right? So don't react at an inappropriate level. Okay? So those are the 4 things I want to touch on with risk resource management for right now. There will be more to come. Watch our next video. Just a quick recap for risk resource management. Accept no unnecessary risk. Accept risk by planning and managing. Accept risk when the benefit outweighs the risk. And make decisions at the right level. Thank you for signing in, and thank you for listening to the Captain's Log, the Daily Drive.